o'clock hustle.
5 o'clock hustle, bro.
5 o'clock.
5 to 8, 5 to 12, 5 to 3 until you get back up the next morning.
Every week I got a new idea.
And that's what it always is, right? It's crazy.
5 o'clock.
I was doing that in 2005, but everybody thought it was weird.
5 o'clock.
Thus, the side hustle was created.
5 o'clock hustle podcast. Man, they're having so much fun.
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, this is when we just start talking and the podcast starts.
No, you go welcome.
You
everybody.
said welcome back, everybody.
Oh, that's right. We haven't done a Squadcast in a really long time, guys.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to another episode of the 5 o'clock hustle.
No, it's another sweet baby episode.
First of all, I don't think I ever said "sweet baby" on an
definitely
actual
did.
episode.
Not on the actual episode.
Oh no, I've said "sweet baby."
You said sweet baby episode.
I like to say "sweet baby."
We're not.
When
This
I'm
isn't
mic
it,
checking.
right?
This is it.
We're gonna restart?
No, this is it. What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the 5 o'clock hustle podcast. Like I said, this is our first Squadcast in a long, long time.
Long time.
I'm not even sure what episode number this is. We're going to be going back a little bit ways to episode 25 and recapping, our good friend Justin Bua's episode, our actual good friend Karla Ticas episode.
That sounds wrong.
Does it? And and Sasha Perelman, who was just last week. So we have a widespread Perelman, that's right. We have a very widespread in terms of time going by.
Yeah. So we did a couple of master classes.
Yeah,
We're not
and
including those.
oh yeah, we did tons of master classes. It was 3. We did 3.
3.
Yeah, and we'll
Three cluster masters.
maybe we'll recap those a little bit too. Who knows?
Sweet baby masterclass.
So before we get that started, I want to get everyone's what's everyone's state right now. How's everybody doing this week? We obviously saw each other a couple days ago, but
Yeah.
just since our last Squadcast, we've obviously done a lot of stuff. And what's like the feeling in the room right now?
Was our last Squadcast before HustleCon?
Yeah, way before HustleCon.
So we need to discuss that a little bit and give a little bit of the people.
I don't know if we have time for that.
Well,
To be honest.
HustleCon? Yeah, we can. We can recap HustleCon really quick.
Okay. Yeah, feel free.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
See
only
you at
do
10
that.
o'clock.
Let's only do that.
Well, first of all, it's almost 10 o'clock, but
Yeah.
no, it's not. It's almost 9 o'clock.
Goodness
But
gracious.
anyways,
All right, but let's not recap HustleCon.
no, I think we should just, in brief, I think we might have touched on it a little bit in episodes that people already might have heard.
How about we just do like a quick 20-minute episode to follow this up at some point, and we'll just touch on it.
Touch on it.
Because there's no way we have enough
Touch
time.
it.
We've already wasted,
right,
we already
whatever.
wasted 10 minutes just talking about nothing so far.
This is a great
Oh,
use.
it's only 2 minutes,
This is a great use of our
feels like
time.
forever.
Well, anyways, if we want to just get the ball rolling, then we can just hop into our first.
Do you want to know how Dre was feeling?
Oh yeah, well I thought we were just
feel
deleting
good.
all the
I feel
the
so
pre
good.
the
Bunch.
pre talk. I was trying to do some pre talk here.
Let's do some pre-talk. How you feeling, Dre?
I feel all right. I feel all right. I'm in need of a little more caffeine, but I think the wine is helping.
Okay.
So
Okay.
everything's
Just activating
good.
your activating all.
my
Endorphs.
my bunch.
Great. Okay. Well, that's
Wait,
good.
what about me?
How are
Dean, how you doing?
guys
I feel good.
You feeling good?
Yeah, I feel cool.
This
I'm tired. I'm a little tired.
Yeah.
It's been a long haul. I feel like as far as the podcast goes, we have so much momentum right now. Like that's fueling the shite out of me. Because I'm like super smiley and having a blast time. But
I feel like the podcast has momentum, but I have less energy than I've ever had.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like crazy.
Now that it's like piling up, especially after HustleCon. Like the ball's just been it's been this crazy snowball effect, and it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. But the more successful we become in our podcast, the more shit we have to do, which is the 5 o'clock hustle, I guess.
money, less, same money, more problems.
Right?
But I feel like we're getting better too.
Yeah.
And that's the reviews reflect that, the viewers reflect that, the downloads reflect that. So I feel good
the
about it.
interest in being on the show reflects
Yeah,
that
we
too.
have-
We've
we
got
have-
some shit popping.
We could be booked for probably the next 5 months right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
It's cool.
Easily.
Love it.
Which is great.
Feeling good.
Just great.
Yeah.
Cool.
So how are you, dude?
I'm good.
Life treating you well.
It's treating me pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little tired. I've been experimenting with diets.
Yeah.
And just eating one meal a day.
That sucks.
So you're tired and hungry. That's
well,
great.
I'm actually not hungry at all. I was telling Dean this earlier.
100 calories. Yeah.
Like, you know, like when you're fasting almost 24 hours, your body eventually adapts, and I think I'm at that point now. Even after my little carb fest at our good friends
For the last 2 days, you mean?
yeah. But it didn't affect my ketone levels or anything. I checked those and everything, so we're all squared away. But when I do eat, I have to eat so much food because it's one meal a day, and you have to make sure that
you're getting your daily caloric.
Yeah,
intake,
and it's there is some calorie restriction involved because you just can't eat enough.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you just get so damn full, and the whole idea of that is so your blood sugar doesn't spike, and this whole science thing.
Yeah.
But we won't get into that. That's another podcast. That's 5 o'clock fit.
Maybe we'll get
coming soon.
Dr. Tejaputro on
5 off.
But anyways, that so we did that.
Yeah.
We said how we were. That's the format. So what's Act 2 of this whole situation?
Let's talk about Mr. Justin Bua.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Dre wasn't even there.
I wasn't even there.
I wasn't even there, but you listened to the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, good.
3 months ago.
About 3. I was gonna say. It's about as
When
good
was
as
that? I want to see. I'm just
ago.
gonna scroll the page really quick and look.
So while you're doing that, I'm just going to jump into it. So, I mean, Boo was really interesting because he was one of those guests where you have a conversation and you kind of lose yourself in it. Like, it flowed so naturally.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt right talking to him. And that happens. Like, I think we facilitate that environment with a lot of our guests. And it's really cool, but he was definitely one of those people where you kind of just lose track of time.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more so on his end from a conversational aspect.
Mm-hmm.
We've had tons and tons of guests who are just like amazing in what they do, and they know every little bit, and they could talk about it for probably nonstop until they drop.
Nonstop until you drop.
But with Bua, it was like the conversation was just so real, and it was just so like it was so tuned in. Yeah. And he got where we were coming from. We got where he was coming from, and he had such a cool story on top of that too.
So maybe it'd be helpful to talk also about like how we get some of our guests. In this case, it was Bua was brought up when we interviewed Michael Cookie Cook, an up and coming artist, the Cookie Monster, and regardless of how soon it happened thereafter, Bua was kind of on our radar from then, and he's been on our radar because he's kind of a world-renowned artist.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, he's kind of but like that.
I remember when I was like, guys, I'm sorry I can't make it, and you're like, oh yeah, missed the show with the most like famous artist on planet Earth
living today.
I'm like,
so weird that you have a print in your room.
Exactly. I'm like, I literally have 2 prints in my house, and my friends are interviewing him.
Yeah,
and I don't even know what I was doing. I was a sick child, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. Happy
That's
kids,
right.
happy wife, happy life. But anyway. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, let's some of the... Chris, what were some of the things that you got from speaking with Bua?
Well, first of all, like like we were talking about, like just the conversational aspect and just how much of it like we felt. And just the feeling, like the connection, the more we've gone along, the feeling of the actual conversations has become more and more important to me, because people can spout and we've had a guest or two where this has kind of been the case. They can spout the stats, and they can spout like the stuff that they're passionate about.
They kind of have like the same story every
yeah, but it doesn't exactly like you don't get the feeling, because it feels a little like generic and rehearsed, and but like with Bua, it was like he was in the gosh darn room, and and that's how you know that he really cares about what he does, and the reasoning behind it, and just the entire culture behind it. And I kind of want to like dial back to Mike Cook's episode. He was kind of the same way, and I don't know if that's because of artists
I was gonna say, I think there has to be some type of correlation.
And there's like this whole, you know, talking shop kind of mentality, but on a more subconscious level that artists like have to deal with, because it's not just, you know, 1 + 1 is 2. It's like, what is like the beauty in everything we do, and like what's the pain, and like how can we bring that and like bring it into a visual medium for people. It's like, it was an incredible conversation. But he comes from a wealth of experience from not just an artist, but as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Can I, before you keep going on
go
that,
ahead.
so I think it's a really important point to touch on, like how we related to him as a guest, but really as someone we're talking to and interacting with in a business setting. Like, if you, everyone out there, our listeners, can pull anything from that conversation, is that's how you want to interact with people that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Because suddenly they're on your team. Like, you need to partner with people. You need to have them on your side.
Right.
And the best way to do that is to be real with them, not to rehearse some script. You know, if you're in sales, break away from it. Everyone's in sales at some point. We're all trying to sell ourselves, or a product or a service or whatever. That's why we're in business. But be real. You know, be real and have a real purpose behind what you're doing, and then that's going to flood its way into how you interact with people. And that's how it felt working with talking. I even combined the two
felt like
naturally.
you were working.
but I felt like I was working because that's how I work.
Right,
you know?
right.
I'm just real with people, but like, pull that from that conversation. Like, be real with people, and you will have meaningful conversations. And if they're meaningful, they will be successful in one way or another.
Yeah. And, you know, there's the being real part. Like, he kind of broke it down during the conversation itself, but in more of an aspect of not being real to other people, but being real to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that came about when I asked him the question, like, you know, what if, like, you know, you have this vision of yourself and you think you have all this like this potential, but it's not like really there. Like, what do you say to those kinds of people? And he says, like, you know, like, it's gonna happen. Like, there's another situation where he's like some people just don't get it. But he was also saying, like, you know, that you need to go back to the basics. You need to learn those steps and really fine tune the fundamentals of everything you're doing. So when you do get to a situation where you have to be real with other people, then you have a built skill set to, you know, drain your free throws every time. Yeah. If it's a basketball reference.
Yeah. LeBron has joined the LA Lakers.
That's right, LeBron.
Oh,
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Waiter.
You need to take this?
I don't know.
Do it.
Pick it up.
If it's 2 times, I take it.
Who is that?
Your wife?
No.
Oh.
No, not at all. It definitely was my wife, though.
And edit point.
No, 100% was my wife. I'll screenshot it and share it on Instagram if I need to.
No evidentia, bro. No evidentia.
All right, so you're talking about that. The other thing, you know, I think was important was talking about honesty with yourself, but in the context of not like if you got it or you don't, but like keep your focus. You know, like, do what you're good at and don't lose sight of that.
Right.
And that's something he talked about because, you know, Bua was a person that branched out to, you know, chocolate bars. Mm-hmm. He did apparel lines. He did e-learning. He did, you know, he really branched out because he was so excited about his topic and about his industry that he just kept forcing it into different products because there's only 2 ways to grow your business. You know, one is to acquire and the other is to build new products, really. So, you know, he went that route and he realized that he was losing focus on what was important to him. Right. And so eventually people would be like, you cut the shit.
Right.
And do what you're good at because you know, you're making these other things work, but are they really what's important to you? Are they really what feels good? And are they really what you should be spending your time creating?
Right.
And so maybe that's something that's hard for all of us. And we talked about this during the episode. Like, we all have a ton of ideas all the time and we want to pursue all of them. And as exciting as they are, you really need to hone in on what's important to you and what you are very good at too, because that's likely going to be the thing you're most successful at. With
that, I actually posed a question to a Facebook community that I guess I'll call it a mastermind, I guess. And like I've been, you know, I've been talking about my product a little bit on the podcast, the Hero's Journey to Success. And you go to the website right now and fill out your email when you want to get notifications for it. But and I'll be completely honest, I've been having some reservations about the entire thing because first and foremost, the material itself is self-evident. Mm-hmm. There's so much, just backing behind the actual methodology in this. It's hard to question that fact. But getting beyond from more of a personal aspect, and it's a little bit of the what's that thing called when you don't think that you should be the one to do a thing. There's some kind of terminology for this. Cool. Anyways, I just been having feelings like because there's something like that, but not exactly. And there's this whole part of me who is like, okay, I understand this. Like I've developed this incredible methodology to help people, with business and with life and with literally everything. But like there's been no real, I'm not out there coaching people right now. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not just shoveling this information to people, and it's like people are like, oh, this is great. Like I haven't done anything with it, which it gives me some personal reservations with that thing.
It's like a practice what you preach type.
Yeah. But all that aside, what this one of these gentlemen that's in the mastermind group was saying is like people don't buy your product. They don't buy your experience. They buy experiences for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, like that's pretty powerful. Like anything, like when it comes from a perspective of someone who's trying to make a product, who's new to it, who's not necessarily an expert at every single aspect of it. If you're, telling people like you have a way for them to have an experience and to have a result, then that's the first thing you have to think of. And if you can't figure that out, then that's probably when you should be going back to the drawing board.
Right.
But
yeah. And just like sales 101, that's the leading message that you run with when you're in sales is you're not selling a box. You're a bunch. Sorry, I had to.
Is that going to be a subscription
You're not selling
service?
your box. You're selling their dream. Like it is not. You have to create an experience for them. And then maybe you eventually fit yourself into that experience, but it's not, here's the solution I have. It's here's the problem that can be helped with. I mean, it's so.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I came up with a short-term solution for that, and basically it's going to be to give my first course that I've developed away for free.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's obviously going to be for a very small period of time, but I'm trying to find some people who might be interested in the product and giving it a try and give me some feedback. And if it helps those people as much as help myself, then maybe I can use those things as like testimonials and such, and all the spiel that you would use from that point in that period, and get some real feedback from people, which I think is incredible. So like I said, you can go to the hero's journey to success.com and get some notifications, and you could be one of the first people to give it a try.
Nice.
Go on the hero's journey.
Love that.
But anyways, now that I did my little self-plug.
Yeah,
that was cool.
I liked it, man.
So, Dre, even though you weren't there for the Bua episode, one of the themes of it was how he evolved with the times. Like in the beginning, it was posters on the wall, and then it turned into printed stuff, and it was in retailers. And then it turned to more like, direct to the consumer prints that he was selling on websites. Like, do you see any of that in the music industry?
Every day. I mean, from the producer side, there's always new equipment that you could be using. There's always new, sounds and plugins. And then, as far as radio play goes, there's a certain sound that people are looking for. There's a certain sound that artists are looking, because a lot of people, in the music industry, when it comes to like being an artist, like being a big time artist, a lot of their stuff is curated by others, so in order for, a lot of producers to get those placements, they have to kind of go outside of the normal thing that they're used to. They have to write, poppy type stuff. There's it's like, it's really formulaic, whereas, a lot of us get into it to be creative and not stick to a formula, you know?
Yeah.
So it is the changing, you know, the formula changes, you know, like, okay, we want the 4 on the floor. We want the, okay, but now we want the trap stuff because, you know, trap is really popular now. Then, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago, it was EDM. Like we wanted the Skrillex, the Avicii, rest in peace. Like they wanted all that type of stuff. So producers are constantly having to change just to stay relevant. Same with artists, you know, like you get to a certain level, of course, like someone like, say for instance, Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z is just a solidified person. Yeah. So he doesn't necessarily have to change with the times.
He's
like
creating the times.
He's creating the times, right?
Yeah.
And also he's very good at recreating a time too. You know, a time where people were, when, you know, he can sell records for the kids that are coming to his concerts, or he can make records for the people who were buying his records back in 2003. Yeah. You know, and like he's just able to do that. But a lot of people aren't afforded that. That luxury, you know.
Well, like Bruno Mars does a really good job at like kind of kicking it back.
And
into,
he's a great example, but at the same time, he's having to recreate himself, you know, like in order to convey that message that he's trying to get across. So he's trying to push out some 80s hip, you know, 80s R&B, 90s R&B type stuff. Like that's his whole album. Yeah. But he has to find a way to make it relevant today. Yeah. So he is changing with the times, but he's getting, you know, he's using the same methods from back then, but with the structure, the sounds, the, you know, the lyrical content of today. And he's making it relevant for the time. So it is a changing, but kind of like a paying homage to back in the day, you know, like, so I look at someone like Bua, you know, where he's got his thing, you know, like, I mean, and just as simple as this, Bua has a certain style that he draws, but he's not going to sell very many pictures of, you know, let's say Larry Bird today. Like there's going to be some people who, oh, collector's item, I love Larry Bird, this and that. But who people want today is they want LeBron James. Yeah. You know, they want a picture of Steph Curry. Like that's what's going to really sell now. So that's just the most simple example that I can get. But for Bua, like he's like, I have a tie to Larry Bird, you know, like, or maybe I'm not speaking for him. I'm just speculating based on his work. Because he's always with Muhammad Ali's, with the, you know, I see all these pictures and stuff, but somebody may want Floyd Mayweather. They may want a picture of Conor McGregor now. So he's got and like, I don't really follow them, but sure, I'll draw it, you know, but that's just like the most basic of basic, examples, because it's like you said, the landscape is always changing. And the only way that you can really, you know, at least for me, the only way that I can comfortably shift with the landscape is making sure that there's a little bit of what I started with. You know what I'm saying? Like the inspiration that got me started. I can't make current music today without the inspiration of the music that was, you know, that inspired me to do this stuff in the first place, you know? And I feel like maybe that's the same with him as well. Those concepts, the way that he drew those pictures of those iconic figures, you know, that whatever inspired him to do that then has to be the inspiration for him drawing the newer people today. Yeah, sure. You know, so
it's the accumulation of your experience plus your drive to become something more constantly.
Right.
And just your style and carrying it forward, regardless of what your circumstance requires. You still.
Yeah, because if you look at his new stuff and you look at like the jazz trio and the DJ, you know, they're two different paintings entirely. Just crazy. The colors that he's using today are insane. It's like the thing is like glittering, like projecting out somehow. And that could be because current art styles, what's currently aesthetically pleasing to a bunch of different people. It could be a number of things. Yeah, but just like but you can tell like there's still that stitch of that same, because he mentioned it. He's like, I have such a distorted view of the world. And you can see that in the jazz trio, and you can see that in, you know, I think there was like a painting of, I don't know, it was like Bruce Springsteen or something. And I hope that's who it was, but they're two completely different paintings, but you can see that distorted view of the world. I thought that was so freaking cool.
And it's the same with, like one of my favorite producers is Pharrell. Mm-hmm. You listen to a lot of Pharrell's music back then, and it's kind of like the same thing. He's got like, it may not be a distorted view, but he's got like this distorted ear. He's got this distorted way of hearing certain things, and the chord changes that he uses. And like one of their albums, NERD, it was called Seeing Sound, and like you can literally see that like in the music that he makes, like how the way, for me at least, like where he takes the chords and things like that. But he's one of those producers where back in 1999 or 2000, 2001, when he was doing like the clips and the nerd stuff and the NSYNC and the Justin Timberlake stuff, you can listen to one of his beats and be like, Pharrell did that. Yeah. And even today in 2018, you can listen to one of his beats and say, Pharrell did that. Right. But music from just when Justin Timberlake dropped his first album to now has completely changed. Right. But you can still find that sonic, it's a sonic thing where, Pharrell has his thing that he goes back to, but he has a way of keeping it current today where he can make a hit today. Like he's been doing. And that it's something about those people that it's,
well, there's some metaphors in there.
Yeah. Sticking to, doing things the way that but also being able to evolve and adapt. And it's just so important in today, like in business, entrepreneurship, anything, man, just being able to adapt, but sticking to your roots, sticking to the things that got you where you are, your experience, your knowledge, all of that.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Never losing sight of yourself, and just making sure that it's clear on anything that you produce. Yep. For sure.
For some reason, like Lose Yourself started playing in my head.
Lose yourself in the music, the moment. No, okay.
See, but also don't lose yourself.
Don't lose yourself.
Like lose a little bit, but like have a little bit to go back to.
Have your ayahuasca experience,
right?
And then come back to reality and just be grown better.
Keep it, man.
Have a Wakanda Wednesday and then move on to Thursday.
Okay, let's move on.
Have some that
was fun.
Bonch.
Justin Bua, thank you so much for coming on the show. We love
absolutely.
You. Thank you for inviting us to your coffee show. Sorry we couldn't make it.
All right, so moving on to what was episode 27 was our good friend Karla Ticas.
Yes, Karla Ticas.
I love Karla.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I loved
Number one.
Karla as part of the podcast because she just you could hear her smiling through the microphone.
Dude, you're right.
Right?
You absolutely could.
It was infectious that how she was speaking, and it didn't even matter what she was talking about. Like, there were some more difficult subjects and there were some lighter subjects, and everything was meaningful, but regardless of what the topic was, you could tell that she was smiling when talking about it. Yeah. And again, like, if we're going to carry forward the theme of delivery for our guests and like what we enjoy about talking to them, when you are talking to someone and it sounds like they're smiling and it sounds like they're happy, it makes you want to open up. It makes you want to smile. It makes you want to talk more. So try to replicate that in your conversations with people, because you get a lot better feedback from someone that thinks that you're happy on the other end. Right. I hear people, like salespeople, call me all the time, and they're like, "Hi, Mr. Scott. I'm calling because I think I have a wonderful opportunity for you." And
it doesn't sound wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's like it doesn't sound terrible. It doesn't sound wonderful at all. It sounds like I'm gonna, like I actually want to know that you're going to be okay after this call. Like, it's not so whatever you're portraying throughout the conversation is going to guide how the conversation goes. So like, be aware of your disposition and how you're talking and what you're relaying. And if you can make other people think that you're smiling on the other end, you're already 8 steps ahead.
Right. And, like it might have been kind of cheating because, she's a friend of ours. Yeah. And
she smiles at us all the time.
Just the environment was kind of like it had a kickstart to the whole situation. Mm-hmm. But what's funny about that, it was really the first time that I had such a deep conversation with Karla. Even though we've known her for a while now, it was the first time.
Groomsmen in her wedding, and
we were groomsmen in her wedding, and we never had such a personal conversation with her before. Yeah, at least I haven't. I don't know about you guys. But
No.
you know, the whole interview itself was, even if we didn't know her, was such a valuable episode, and you know, it was one of our rare chances to have a female guest on, even though we have 2 female guests to talk about on this Squadcast.
And we're gonna have a lot more.
We're gonna have a lot
So
more,
many more.
especially now because we have them too on. They've been
they kind of led
referring
the charge
us.
for us. Yeah.
But we talked about tons of stuff with Karla, you know, including how tough it is in that industry for her, as opposed to, like, you know, a photographer would be like a man
Right.
doing the same thing as she's doing, and how the negotiations are harder, and people just are the respect is hard earned in that regard. And that was a interesting and somewhat difficult conversation to have, especially the first time for us to really kind of dive into that. We talked about that a little bit with Grace Lancaster, but definitely a lot more detail with Karla.
Yeah, you know, it's tough to hear. You know, what you're talking about is just a difference in treatment when in the business setting. You know, her being a woman versus her being a man.
Right.
And I think that there are, you know, in some instances, I think that, you know, you and I and Drag, you know, I'm looking at you, Chris, so but I think that we may go through the same things at some point. You know, you deal with certain people and they just treat everyone like shit. That's totally fine. You know, I mean, it's not fine, it's terrible, but that's a reality, when I'd rather them just be an equal asshole. But there are definitely a number of instances where women are being mistreated based on their gender, and they're having a harder time doing the same things that men do in the same setting just because of their gender, and because they've had to fight so much harder to get where they are today than the typical male.
Yes.
And it's very difficult for them in certain settings, and they get, you know, abused, not necessarily physically, but mentally and emotionally. They get pushed. You know, and it's tough. It's unfair, and it's a sad thing that I think we all experienced when we were talking to Karla. Is that we it's just sad that you still have to go through those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I as much as it pains me to hear things like that, like, I want to hear more and more and more stories like that.
I mean, not that it should be, but, you know, it's something. It's a little closer to home for us too, because, you know, she's such a good friend, and you know, and we obviously care about her more as a person.
Like, people never treat you that way.
Right, exactly.
Like,
Like you said, like, it sounds like she's smiling through the phone. Like, that's just her energy, you know? So, like, you look at someone like that and you say, how can anyone, you know, not see that, you know? But we're obviously cut from a different cloth, and, you know, she's our friend, and it's unfortunate that, you know, like you said, that is, even when these people are so great, like, and we know that, you know, like, it just makes it a little tougher for me to kind of, you know, grasp onto, because I'm like, not Karla. You know, like, she's got, I mean, and her talent, like, is just, like, you look at her, someone who has talent like that, who has that go-getter attitude, like, she's just, you know, she's really done, like, she's just killing it, you know, and, like, you just look at her and you say, wow, like, that speaks for itself. Like, she's good, you know, like, so we almost take that type of stuff for granted, I feel like. So
yeah, she's an incredible artist, an incredible photographer, almost to the point, and this is one of her main things that she was bringing out, is that, you know, she wants to kind of separate some of that from her life now. She's gotten to the point in her success that she's like, okay, like, I need to, you know, divide the lines here a little bit more clearly, and, you know, separate my personal life from my professional life. Which I thought was such an interesting thing to hear, because that's like the first time I think we've heard someone say anything like that on our show.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we've heard people talk about scheduling time, and I think that most of those people that talk about scheduling time are probably subscribe to the idea that you have to schedule out time for yourself too.
That's true,
So,
but I feel like her thing was that she wants to separate those two, like her professional and personal life, but still, like, use each of them in the same capacity to, like, you know, uplift people to, you know, it's not just like, I want to separate my professional from my personal life, and then my personal life could be a hermit. Like, she's like, I want to use, you know, some stuff in my personal life to, you know, help others, you know, and do. So it's kind of like she's still a public figure in that sense, you know, on both routes. But, you know, so it's, you know, there are people who have said, you know, that they separated and you schedule out your time and stuff like that. But they're like, oh, it's for me time. And her me time is like, I'm trying to go help more people, you know. So,
But I also feel like though the whole like time blocking and scheduling and stuff, I think that's from our conversations they had. I feel like most of those have been because they're trying to figure out how to get more shit done.
yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
But for her, it was like, you know, she just got married like 6 months ago or something like that. And, you know, it's a brand new situation. She obviously wants to nurture that, especially during this period of time. So critical and so important. It's a beautiful thing to do is explore, you know, the personalities coming together in a new house that they moved into together and being husband and wife or wife and husband. Just keep it less sexist, I guess.
It's hard right now because there's so much, like everyone is on all the time. I mean, you look at the gig economy, which is taking over right now, and if you look at Uber, you look at what's the dog walking one, whatever, all of those, Tackle. If you look at any of those, like they are on demand right now services where you are graded and you are reviewed based on how quick you respond and how quick you act. So it's like a lot of business owners that are not necessarily part of that gig economy, but they are part of the remote workforce. And it can be, you know, a sole proprietorship, but they're part of that and they feel judged based on how quickly they respond to each text that comes in because everyone's texting now. It's not like everyone sends you a letter like, hey, please do this photo shoot for me in 2 weeks. Then you respond in kind and they get the letter in 2 days and then everyone's prepared for it and good to go. Like it is like you get a text at 11, 12, 1 in the morning, whatever it is, that says, hey, I need you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Can you make it? And if you don't respond at 1 a.m., you're losing out to someone else. And so I think what Karla was going through and what a lot of our listeners are going through is the fear of losing business based on living your own life.
Yes.
And it's really difficult to let that go. I mean, Brittany, my wife, has the same thing to where she's on, she's on Rover, which is basically it's for, dog boarding and daycare. And it ties into her personal business. But there'll be times where she doesn't respond within 10 minutes and she's like, shit, my score is going to go down.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a reality. Like you are actually judged by how, and she runs her own business, but she still wants to look good as far as the reviews to generate additional business on there. But that is the setting.
Yeah.
People are like 24/7. They need to respond. They need to respond now. You don't have any leeway on that, and you have to perform at a very high level, or else you lose it out to the other 80 people that are saying they can do exactly what you can do.
Right.
So what Karla is finding is the confidence to say that, well, I'm better than those 80 people. I'm way better. So hold your ass on and wait till Monday morning,
right,
when we'll respond to you. But that's difficult. That's really scary for entrepreneurs to do. But it becomes necessary. But you also have to build that confidence to let go of the fear of losing out.
Yeah, there's definitely always got to be a balance. And I feel like though, for some people like me, for instance, who I just want to keep the grind going. And then maybe it's because like I haven't made like a my side hustle like this incredible successful business yet. And maybe that's it. Maybe once I hit some kind of point, then I'm like, all right, let's back off a little bit. But right now, like and I'll kind of preview our guest that we interviewed this past week, Dr. Chris Zano. He was talking about like if you ever feel like you're hustling, you're not doing the right thing. You shouldn't feel like you're hustling. It should just feel good.
Right.
Everything that you do. And that's kind of a mixed message with Karla's stuff, but like that, I think that's kind of where my mind's at right now in that regard.
Well, I mean, finding that ability to, for instance, not answer business calls during the weekend, that's a luxury.
Oh yeah.
Like that's something that you build once you've evolved your brand into something that people know and need, then you get that. But before then, I don't have a problem with the words grind and hustle. Yeah. I mean, you could use them with, interchange them with work hard.
Right.
Fine. It's not as flashy. There's a lot of words that are, replace other words, but I feel like you need to work hard to build out that brand and to build out that confidence. We talked about it a long time. Like, does does action build, like, are confident people active, or are people that take action more confident? And I would think it's the latter. I think that people take action, they're generally more confident. And so you need to be more active, and you need to see more results before you have the confidence to turn people away, for instance, or to take the risk on business that you don't know if it's going to be there on Monday morning.
Well, I mean, and it's like she was saying too about like the dating her clients. Like, I feel like she has to be that way, you know, like, 'cause she has to shut people down, and she has to, you know, like, build them up when they're feeling down about their product or whatever. It's like she's in a relationship with these people, and I feel like her confidence must be through the roof, of course, because you know, she has to make these connections every day, and she has to make these people feel like, you know, kind of like back to what you were saying, like, you know, how people just need you right then and there. You know, for her, like, she's in a relationship with these people, like, of course they freaking need you, you know, so her confidence must be through the roof, and she must be able to manage that. I mean, she obviously managed it really well, you know, so. Yeah,
but people lose sight of, like, talking about dating. Yeah. It's the same thing with any, again, going back to, like, selling yourself, selling whatever it is. In that process, you are dating for sure. But how much more do people like playing hard to get?
True.
Versus someone that's calling and texting them every hour, like, hey, when are we gonna do that next date? Hey, I found a great place. Oh, hey, I was reading a poem and it made me, like, you don't want that shit. Like,
eating popcorn, it made me think about our first date.
You know, it's easy to lose sight of that. It's easy to lose sight of, like, use a metaphor like dating, but make sure you remember the entire process and what it was like, and when you played hard to get, like, your results are probably a little better.
Too many people, you're gonna get caught up out here in the street.
at least a certain percentage, because there is like the whole like people have different sales languages. You know, they read differently, they listen differently, they think differently. But definitely there's a certain percentage, especially in that luxury area where, you know, you're having like high-end photography services done. That goes to pricing models, to how you interact with your clients and everything.
How much more do you want a product when it's almost sold out versus when it's readily available? For Amazon, for instance, when there's a sale going on, Amazon, and you see 80, or Groupon, you see 88% redeemed, you're like, damn, it must be good.
First of all, I didn't even know Groupon was a thing anymore.
See, but this is and I get your point. I get your point, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. Everybody's gonna be there. 88% of people are gonna be there. I don't want to do it. You know, like it keeps me away. No,
not like for goods.
I know.
I do like.
I just think
like
of Groupon like Vegas trips.
I do like the gym deals, like when they're like go like boxing for like $5 when it's normally like $300 or something.
See, but then I'm like, I'm gonna hit someone because everybody and their mother's gonna be there. And we're gonna be so close.
People.
But
then there's things like consulting services. Like if it's priced too low, they don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, they don't think that it's valuable. Yeah.
Anyways, and the last little tidbit from Karla, she said, if you're trying to get more followers on Instagram, go look at your feed and clear out all the crap, because chances are, if you have fewer than, like, let's say 1,000 followers, most of the posts on your Instagram are meaningless, are terrible photographs, and do nothing for your business. So go through there and clean up your feed.
Weed out the week.
So the last one we just had last week, Sasha Perelman. We met her at HustleCon. The Hustle. You go to the hustle.co. It's the company, and they had this amazing event that we were invited to. We were so lucky, and we met a lot of really cool people, including Sasha.
Yeah, and she was a great conversationalist, and it was really interesting because when we got done, we spoke with her, and she said that she's actually introverted, generally speaking, and I didn't feel that during the conversation. But then when I kind of in my head, I've shared this many times, I always go back and recap a conversation, especially like when we're doing this, because I go back and write some of the show notes and stuff like that. But I went back and kind of revisited the conversation in my head, and I was like, oh my God, she is an introvert. Because even when she was saying, even when she was describing that she had to feel passionate about doing something in order to be happy with it, and that she wouldn't do anything except for something that she's passionate about, she still was pretty calm and like laid back about it. And I didn't realize that during the conversation, because it just kind of felt natural based on what she was saying. So, going back to it, it's an interesting thing that you don't need to be loud and boisterous and talk like this because it's amazing, and you run go to like, you don't need to do that to
Insano.
yeah, like you don't to convey your feelings. You don't actually need to be going nuts like that. Like it. Sorry.
No,
Everybody starts laughing.
what's really crazy is the fact that what she actually does is she runs an event company, which you think would take a very extroverted personality to run something like that.
Yeah.
Because you're facilitating the networking of countless people, and she does it for huge companies.
Yeah, well, you don't need to necessarily be the stereotypical archetype of a role in order to be good at that role, in order to enjoy that role.
Right.
And that, I guess she personifies that. Like, she's a person that sincerely enjoys creating an environment for other people to enjoy.
Yes.
But she's not the stereotypical, fist pumping, fucking drink pound. Maybe I don't know if she drinks, but she's not that person like getting lit and I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I feel like I was getting some super old like scratching discs.
Flappy.
Rewinding the cassette tape.
Yeah, but she was really true to herself, and she said she found some great jobs that she was going through, and at some point, we talked about the motivation, like what motivated her to finally take the leap. But she did start with it as a side hustle. She started with what she's doing.
Yeah.
It actually started way back before. It was what she used to do out of college, and she was, forming these events and getting people, and they were really successful. And then she entered corporate America and was kind of going through those motions, and then went back to her side hustle, her passion project. And then we kind of asked her, like, what pushed you to finally turn to it and go full time? And she was just like, the fear that I'd just be doing the same thing at a different desk. Like, I would be sitting here basically, progressing someone else's vision,
Right.
without being able to do what's important to me.
Yeah, and she said, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but like if you have that feeling that what you're doing is not, essentially making you happy, when there's because purpose is huge, there's that whole thing where people like say they quit their bosses and not their jobs, but I think it's really like they don't have purpose. They don't feel the purpose. At least there might, the job might be very important. They might be saving lives. They might be, like a firefighter or something. But if it's not lighting your fire, then then finish my sentence so we can hashtag it or something.
It's not lighting your fire, then
Put it out.
put it out.
Yeah, Sasha was such a fun guest to have, and there's if we have to, we kind of already touched on this a lot with Karla's episode, but again, she was one of our rare female guests, and I kind of pulled it out of her. Like it wasn't organically going that direction, but I was like, hey, tell me what it's like to be a woman in business.
Yeah, I felt like you were on a mission with that question.
But honestly, like I have a genuine curiosity for this kind of thing because first of all, like Dre, you and I both have daughters, and like I want to know what the landscape is going to be like for them growing up, and I want to know how to give them as many tools and as many resources to thrive and not have to just be like pounded down by our cultural society. Right. And I feel like now more than ever our cultural society is kind of backing them up.
Yeah, they're rallying behind them for sure.
With the Me Too movement, with all the equal pay stuff that's going on and all that jazz.
It's a tough world.
Yeah,
it really is. It's difficult because you have, for every woman that is part of and embracing the Me Too movement, you have another woman that is kind of shunning that one and having this traditionalist mindset, and you can't really tell either one of them they're right or wrong because this is America.
Yeah.
This is so what someone wants to believe in, you can't impact, but everyone is setting everyone else
you can't.
back.
You just have to be ready for some some violence toward you.
Yeah, of course you can. You can do whatever you want, but it's just it's unfortunate that it takes a riot-like movement to facilitate equality.
Yeah,
when it should,
Well, it's been a repetitive process throughout history, really.
Yeah.
With civil rights movement, with
Dude, it's so funny because I was listening to this podcast. I forget what podcast it was.
Good. We don't want you to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
promote it anymore.
But they were talking about issues like this, like the Me Too movement, the women's rights, the women's equality, the things like that. And they were saying, there's a lot of parallels between the fight that women are going through and the fight that African American people are going through, like in the country. And so they posed the question, Matt, what do you think it's like to be an African American woman? Like, because you're double stacked against, and like you don't really think about
it's
those
two
type
strikes
of things.
against you.
It's two strikes against you, and me raising a half African American, daughter, like that's huge for me, and it really made me think. And it's so good to get these conversations started and get the conversations, out there and talk to people who are successful, such as Sasha, and see their takes on it. Like she was saying, like, I'm not the type of person that wants to use, like, she's like, I'm attractive, but I don't want to use my looks to get to where I want to go. I want to use my, this is what I do, like I want to be taken seriously for what I do, and
just because you happen to be attractive doesn't mean that needs to be your value.
Right. Exactly. And, I just think it's so interesting, man, because it's like you said, Dean, it's like, there are people who are going to find like a way to shit on your, I want equal pay. I want this and this and that. But then there's a woman, somewhere in the South somewhere, who's just like, you just need to stay in the kitchen and you need to do. And it's like, you look at her and you're like, how do you not sympathize with someone who you directly identify with, and that's tough, and I see that a lot in the African American community. It's like where I literally look at the same person, and like, a lot of times growing up where I grew up, we were always looking for someone who was a direct reflection of us to go like challenge them, as opposed to lift them up to help them out, like with the gang culture and everything. Like you walk around looking for someone who looks exactly like if there was a kid in the hood who was like kind of like, a square nerd, like gangsters would leave him alone, like they're like, nah, don't worry, like let him do it, he's gonna make it, he's smart, like, blah blah. But like if you were like if someone was who looked exactly like you, who had the saggy pants or whatever, like you would challenge that kid, and it's so backwards. And it's so, like you said, for women, like for someone who can clearly have the card stacked against them, to look at another woman who has the card stacked against them and say, you just need to stop complaining and you need to do this and this, like, it's not complaining. Like we're working as hard as everybody else out here, and we just want it to be represented. Like how do you, it's tough for me to like understand, because I have my own view of how things should be, like, or how things have affected me in my life, and I try to take like I'm not going to be a victim role, but for women it's different. I mean, it really is. Like you have people shitting on you every day, even women, and it's just tough, man.
Everybody's got shit. Yeah. Have you guys seen Handmaid's Tale?
I haven't. I've heard that.
If you want to feel really bad about women,
I've heard.
Watch Handmaid's Tale. It is so depressing. You keep thinking that something nice is gonna happen, and like you're like, boom. Like they can't like make it more depressing than this, and then they do it every single time, and it's the worst thing ever, and it is literally abuse.
Yeah, I mean, what drives me wild is that equality should, at some level, stand for neutrality, and even people that want to be above or below the line should be able to respect that neutrality is okay. And that's my biggest issue, is that, you can be a traditionalist, think that women need to be at the home cooking, think that it should only be a union between a man and a woman, think that whatever you want,
right?
But let people that are celebrating equality like celebrate. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't. It's a lack of self-esteem. It's a fear that you're going to be invalidated by something that's different than you. But the reality is, we can all coexist. Like you don't need. It doesn't need to be one way. It doesn't need to be one right. You can be right and they can be right. And it doesn't invalidate the other. Like
Yeah.
It's just such a closed-minded thinking right now, and it's really difficult.
It's crazy because, like, you know, you can just not think about it for so long, but then, like, you one day you look up and you're like, wow, there's so much shit, shitty people, shitty attitudes about you know race and age and sex and, like, you name it, and it's true, it's there.
I think that's such a huge reason why people are doing what we're talking about, what we're doing here with this podcast is people are taking it into their own hands and they're starting to just make their own thing.
And they have a lot more tools to do it too.
Right, exactly. And like the need to like, I don't want to say like stick to the formula, like go to college, this and that. Like it's not as prevalent now as it used to be because people are looking at these things, looking at all the inequalities.
It's almost non-existent.
Right. And it's just like people are just like saying, fuck it, I'm going to do it on my own because they're not going to give it to me. They're complaining about me wanting it. So I'm just going to go get it anyway because, you know, this is what I have to do. This is what I want to do. And it goes back to the passion. Like this is like people have passions, man. And just because you want to stay in the kitchen and cook, don't shit on her passion because she doesn't, you know, like her getting more money isn't affecting you in the kitchen if that's where you want to be, or affecting you at home with the kids if that's where you want to be. Like, let her do her and you do what you want to do. But
that's the problem too, is that media captures the radicalists on both ends.
True.
So just like you're spotting out the woman in the kitchen that's like, well, she shouldn't be out there having a job.
Right.
You have the other end of a feminist who's not technically, feminism technically is not for equality. It's for a more righteous.
Right.
It's more on the female side, which is fine. Fight for what you want. Again, I don't care. But what I'm saying is that the feminists are saying, well, she shouldn't be at the home. She shouldn't feel like she needs to be at the home cooking and waiting for her husband to get home before
her husband has a mental control.
So it's like the media is just fucking all of us because they know that life would be so boring if we all didn't hate each other. So it just turn it against us. Like, oh, you want, that white guy killed that white guy, but also that white guy killed that black guy. So make sure you put that online.
Right. Exactly.
Like they can very easily skew everything that we look at to make sure that there's always something to see and there's always something to bitch about and there's always something like, if there were no technology, I wonder if racism and sexism would not have already progressed. Like it would have gotten a lot better.
Right. It would have slowly start to fizzle out. Yeah.
The more, and maybe it's the media's fault, but the more as time progresses, I just feel like we're just in the same spot.
If not getting worse.
No, you think like there's a certain point
and
in
we're just
time
seeing
where,
more of it because we can.
It's like we're at a certain point we're just in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's still shit going on around us, but from our perspective, it's calm. You know, like we're just in the eye of the storm, and then sure enough, something comes up, and fuck, we're back. We're hit again. You know, like we're back in the damage, and it's like you said, like. There's so many, there's extreme on this side, there's extreme on that side. And, you would think that the way America has been and, the way that they portray it and the values that we're taught here in America, it's like there is a middle ground. Like there was a war here at one point and we found a way to deal with it, you know, like not saying that we need to go to war.
Go to war and fucking vote.
Right. Exactly. Like, like that's, I mean, we're a resilient country. Like we've fought back from a lot of shit. Like we've made peace with a lot of our demons.
We're one of the only countries who's really just killed our brothers. Like, there's obviously exceptions like in the Middle East and things like of that sort. But in terms of like the brutality of what was the Civil War and literally just going and like your cousin or brother who literally lived right across the state line. Right. You're at war with them now. Right. And we had our licks in that at that moment. And I think that definitely set us up for the next couple 100 years.
Well, that's the sad part is that most radicalist movies that you watch that are about like the future and about like crazy overthrows, they talk about the fact that we as a population of human beings, or Americans really, can't be given that much control.
Right.
Like we just don't know what to do with it. Like we're given too much freedom to where we cause chaos based on that freedom. And that's fucked up. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think that's right at all, but it's interesting like at its base because it's a reality that countries with less choices I mean, you don't have the same civil rights, you don't have the same freedoms, and you probably don't have the same enjoyment. But I guess that's kind of like saying you wouldn't miss color TV if it were never invented. Like, you don't miss your freedoms that you don't have.
Right, exactly.
And there are a bunch of other countries that are still stuck in traditional roles in every aspect, and they have they have way worse issues, but this is not one of them. So I guess it's kind of a moot point, but man, like, life is just crazy. It's so weird.
It's like some things that we look at other cultures and we're like, oh, that should, like, we can kind of do that over here, but then it takes away another thing, and then it just creates. It's like you lose one, you gain one. You lose the issue, you gain the issue, and it's just like, I mean, it's like you said, it's like we're kind of in the same spot. Like, we have a lot of these things. A lot of the reason that I think it's more relevant now or more prevalent now is just because of social media. Is because everybody has an opinion, but now you have a place to broadcast it.
Yeah. Not only that, your people are sharing the opinion that they want other people to
agree with. Well, because you're sharing,
not just agree with,
sharing
but like
an
what
opinion.
they want to show. Like, they're showing the cards that they want to show.
Right. I mean, you take a look at your friends list, and you kind of get a general consensus of what your friends are thinking. Mm-hmm. So then you post something so that you can get validation from those people, right? And it may not necessarily be what you think. I don't know how many of our friends from high school you guys have unfollowed, but I've unfollowed a fuckload.
Most.
Because
holy crap.
Because holy shit.
We're all thinking of the same one right now.
Right, exactly. By the way.
Yeah, he is out of this world.
So it's just like, you're either trying to cater to the group, to the majority of the people that are on your feed, or you're trying to deviate from them, and you're trying to create a dialogue, or and at this point, it's not even a dialogue. It's like, you're an idiot. This is why you're an idiot. And now you try and tell me why I'm an idiot. Okay, now you told me why I'm an idiot, but you're wrong because I'm not an idiot, and you're an idiot, and this is another reason why you're an idiot.
You're wrong, yeah.
And it just goes back and forth. I'm like, why are we even, like, this is time that we're spending in our everyday lives where we can be out in the community doing something, to kind of empower kids. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people will see an African American person get killed on TV by a police officer. Now, whether it was warranted, whether it was we don't know the situation. And I try to keep because it's happened to me before, and obviously I didn't get shot by a police officer.
Damn.
But like, just the profiling, like, it's happened to me before.
Yeah, you try not to be biased about it.
But I try not to be biased about it because you never know. Like, you never know exactly what it is. But then when someone who has not lived that experience comes on and says, "Oh, well, the cop shot him. So what about black on black violence in Chicago? Why aren't you guys mad about that?" It's like, yo, we are mad about that. But, like, you're not listening to me saying that I'm mad about that because you don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not, like, we're in the community. We're policing our own. Like, we're trying to get this shit under control. But if I say something about a black person killing a black person, you just look over it. But if I say something about a white person killing a black person, then you want to debate it. And vice versa. Like, if you say something about a white person killing a white person, there's black people who don't give a shit. But then you say something about a black person killing a white person, and the black person's trying to defend it. So, like, it's just crazy because everybody has this way to attack another individual, to attack a movement, like the women's movement. They have this way to do it. And it's getting broadcast to fucking millions of people, and like, it's crazy.
I've always been in the middle, and
I try and stay in the middle as much as I can.
And that's because of, like, my whatever I am.
You're like a mocha.
I'm a mocha.
You're just like
mocha latte.
So, like, I've always tried to argue both sides. I even do it, like, on Twitter. And it's kind of fucked up because people, like, first of all, anybody listening to this, especially if you're in the media, decides to go through my Twitter and, like, be like, this guy said this, just go and look at the rest of the stuff I say, because I literally go and I'll see somebody's, like, controversial tweet about Donald Trump or about somebody getting killed by a police officer, and I literally go and someone will say, like, comment on the tweet, and I'll say, I'll argue with them, and then someone who says the exact opposite thing who's basically agreeing with the point that I was saying. I argue with that person too.
Yeah.
and then I just have like 2 shit storms going through my Twitter for like the next 2 days of people just screaming at me from both sides.
Right.
And I'm just like, holy crap, this is insane.
Yeah.
But it's a fun practice, and you guys should do it. It's kind of fun.
Don't
Dude, I don't.
say that.
Don't do that.
It's fun.
Dude, but listen,
It's fun to do because first of all, it shows how insanely intolerant everyone is about having an honest conversation with. I don't instigate. I just say like,
or it shows how passionate they are about their own
they're
opinions.
passionate about their opinions, but to a fault. Like they are extreme.
Yeah, but why don't you have opinions?
But this is the thing.
I have opinions.
But this is
But
the
you have
thing.
both sides, though.
It's to a.
It was true, but
you
because
say
like,
it's
I've
to a
had
fault?
to live on both sides of like like from a perspective of coming from a single parent home and like not being a white dude in the South. And like my mom's white, so like it's easy enough.
Yeah,
to
but if you were
identify
still
with
living that life, would you be saying this shit? Like, would you be arguing both sides if you were still living that life? I get
if I was
like
experiential.
experiential.
I've always had to live on the line because I've always had to adapt to the certain kind of people I'm hanging out with, to like literally like being like like hanging out with like some white supremacist dude and be like, yeah, like freaking like I'm a white guy for 100%. Or even when I moved out here, like when you were like one of my main friends and I would hang out with like all your friends and stuff, it was just like with Mario and even Justin and stuff, who definitely identifies with like a certain kind of culture. And like I had to kind of like adapt to those certain situations. I go to work and I'm a completely different person. When I'm on the podcast, I hope that I am the person that I am 100% of the time.
See, and the reason that I stay out of it is very similar to your reason. Is because, like you said, I've lived both.
Yeah.
But the difference for me is, and I'm not saying that like there's like a, the difference for me is that me in the hood is still a you're black man in the hood. Me out here in the suburbs, you're black man in the suburbs. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a different perspective. Like, I'm seeing 2 different worldviews. Yeah. But not everybody is seeing me as a 2 different worldview. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm always curious to what people see when they see me, and I'm like, because like legit, like I've never felt like I fit into a group of people. See, and I don't have anybody to like. You obviously have a group to identify with. Right. You obviously have a group to identify with. Mm-hmm. I don't have a group to identify with.
I mean, if I had to peg you, I think you're more Ben Affleck than Denzel. But
yeah.
No,
when you moved to Oak Park, you were more Ben Affleck. When I moved to Oak Park, I was still a black kid. I was still a black kid in Oak Park.
Well, that's because like I'm like I adapt. Like, and like that's been my skill. Like I could. Like I said, I can hang out with like a crew of white supremacists and like fool them that day.
Let's lose that example.
Well, like I've never. Well, no, straight up. Like there's like in the South. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah, where there was very racist people on both sides of the line.
Yeah, you may have had to get in, to put yourself in danger, but you're not hanging out with white supremacists.
No, they're just there.
It's like we just lost a shit ton of followers.
No, they're
and gained some too.
This is it. They're your next door neighbors.
Yeah, no, that's
I totally get it.
There's nothing you can do about that. It's just where you are, where you end up.
Same with me. It's like I grew up, born in. I go home like it's gangbangers. You know what I'm saying? So what's to to differentiate between me and them? You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't affiliated with any gangs, but I'm outside playing football, right on this block. Yeah, they're selling drugs on this block. Police don't see a fucking difference. People don't see a fucking. It's not even just police. Like, I mean, even black people don't see a fucking difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just some thugs in the hood. Like, blah blah. It's just the way that it is. Like, no matter where you are, man. Like you like, it's tough. Like, cause you are who you are. You know what I'm saying? And I as much as I try to adapt and like you said, like be that chameleon, it's just like. At a certain point, you are who you are. Like, and you think about, like, for women, it's like, yeah, you can try to adapt. You can try to be one of the boys. But at the end of the day, you're a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they see that. You can't make that you can't separate yourself from that. And, like, people will treat you based on who they think you are. You know, like, and it's no matter how much of a good personality you have, no matter how extroverted, introverted, how smart, intelligent, how, you know, left behind you got in school, people will treat you as who they think that you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, just from their own personal experiences, and then it's up to you to try your best to change their mind, you know, like, for the better, for the, you know, for the worse, whatever, you know. And, like,
but I think that's the issue, though, right? Is that masculine traits are associated with being powerful, and feminine traits are associated with being sensitive.
Right.
So when you think about a man is a man and a woman is a woman, a man is powerful and a woman is sensitive, obviously they need to take on a different role if they want to be successful in their own right.
Right.
So that's fucked up in and of itself.
Oh,
like
yes,
that you go back to like people actually take definition of like scientific terms and turn them into stereotype building.
Right.
But it's like a woman can be very powerful. I don't even know what that, there's nothing beyond that. Like,
put it this way. Put it this way. The three of us, you look at our moms, badass women.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't look at either one of your moms and say like, oh, like.
But every one of them will tell you that they went through.
But they have gone through that, right? It's about your view. It's about your perspective, like, right? So I think a lot of the issues that we have is about perspective, like, and the way that people are being brought up, being taught, being, you know, like, stereotypes exist, you know, sometimes for a reason, but like, I don't need to raise my son to teach him that women are inferior to him when in my household, shit didn't move without my mom saying so. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad was on the road, he was making money, he was doing his thing, but my mom was raising 3 kids, getting her master's degree, going to work full time, you know, doing like all shit didn't move without my mom. So my perspective is like, that's strength. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, she's probably the strongest person I know. And yeah, she's got, you know, she has her moments where she breaks down, she does these things, but that doesn't make me see her as weak. That just makes me see her as she's got a lot, you know what I'm saying? And like, she's just trying to carry it herself. She's trying to bear it herself. So my perspective of a woman is completely different. So I think if we kind of just change, I mean, and women like the women that we're talking to, they're kind of creating that shift and that change for themselves because they're bossing up, you know, and there's a lot of people, there's a lot of guys who like, I'll go to a mastermind with Karla, you know, like just have her talk and I'd sit there and take notes and learn just because she's done so much. And in my eyes, she's so powerful, but there's other people in the industry, in her industry specifically, where they'll look at her and they say, she's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just, we really just need to try and shift the, I guess, the perception and the image of women and just of business in general, because it's not like a sport where like there's a 7-foot guy and like a 5-foot guy like on a basketball court. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course the 7-foot guy is gonna lose because a 5-foot guy has handles. And no, I'm just joking. But it's not like, you know, as clear as day, because there's women out there who are way more successful than I am, and I don't take that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't look at them like, oh well, she's still inferior than me because she's a woman. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's people who still have that mindset. Like, yeah, you may run a Fortune 500 company, but you're a woman.
There's
you know, like,
there's Carl Jung's idea of the anima and the animus, and is basically the anima is like the male like essence, I guess we'll call it. I can't nail these terms on like specifically, but and then the animus is like the female, where it's like, you know, more sensitive, like you were saying. And the idea was to be the most complete person that you can be is you marrying those two things and finding the opposite, whatever it is. If you're an anima, then finding your animus. If you're an animus, finding your anima. And when you can merge the male and female essence, then that's when you become the best version of yourself. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about a little bit there.
Yeah, or even if those two essences can be found in the same gender, but they are.
Well, it's also like to go into a little bit more. There's the it's we also reflect that onto the
animaniacs,
the companions that we seek out. We have this image of like the perfect woman, for instance. Yes, the animaniacs. we have this image of the perfect woman, you know, and we try to find that in our world, and we might think that we might see that that's part of it, which is a totally different thing. But, you know, you're...
To be clear, we all found the perfect woman.
Yes, we did.
Before you get us in trouble.
And, you know, it's how when you're able to merge that into your life and you become more sensitive, we see our moms who are so powerful, and that's part of the animus that we are merging with our own anima.
Right.
And we're becoming better people. So, you know, using your environment, using your experience, like we were talking about all this with Justin Bua earlier, and, you know, merging everything that you've gone through to become the best version of you.
And I think it's, I've just been like thinking about everything we're saying right now, and I feel like everything's getting worse. To be fair, I really do think things are getting worse, because maybe racism has gotten better, maybe sexism is getting better. I think that generally speaking, the hatred against like same-sex unions is definitely getting a lot better, but overall, I think people are still everyone finds something to hate. I mean, even if you talk about like generationists, so like millennials, for instance.
It's so fucking annoying.
But it's the same thing. So like the three of us are on the cusp.
You old fart, like.
See, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem too, because you have people that are on both ends of it. We're kind of like right on the cusp of being a millennial and being the
whatever the other one
gen
is.
Something that's good. But
as far as everyone that's not a millennial or that's like older than millennials considered, we're all fucking millennials, and you shouldn't die.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we're so this is just one example. You know, millennials are entitled. They don't work as hard. They want everything handed to them. They need constant acknowledgement, or else they're not going to be happy. They need more responsibility. They need more pay and less like blah 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 blah. All this bullshit, and it's like, get over that. Like, we don't, you know, you're finding another way to build hatred among two people in the same room, which is it's just, you know, it's self-defeating. Like, you're gonna if you look back at every race, I'm sorry, now I'm all into the whole damn thing. Every generation was entitled at some point.
Yes, it had to be.
But it's just like people just keep finding ways to be pissed off at each other.
People hate me for this one too, but there's that saying, like, if you are younger than 25 or something like that, and you are a Republican, then you have no heart. If you're older than 25 and you're a Democrat, then you have no brain.
Gosh, man. No, but I see what you're saying, and it's funny because
don't quote me on that.
It's funny because I see a lot of that in the music industry, where a lot of especially in hip hop, a lot of the hip hop traditionalists, you know, they're mad at the young kids because they're saying that they're not lyrical enough, right? It's like you said, they're always going to find something to be mad at. All these kids aren't lyrical enough. They're not saying anything. They're just mumbling, and they're doing this, and, you know, they're just getting famous on Instagram, and, you know, they're saying that they're platinum, but they haven't actually sold like a physical CD. They're just all streams and blah, blah, blah. It's like
downloads, yeah.
Well, this is the current landscape, right? And you can't get mad at the kids because they didn't create the landscape. It's the higher ups who've created this new landscape. Yeah. They're changing the structure and the hierarchy.
Zuckerberg.
Right. It's these people who are doing it, but you're mad at the kids because they're taking advantage of it, right? So like you have these people who are like, oh man, back when Nas was spitting and, like, you know, he was lyrical, he was saying something, and these kids now they just want to talk about Xanny. And it's like, but you got to remember, when Nas came out, people were boycotting his records. You know, when Eminem came out, people were burning his shit in piles. Like, but now you're looking at Eminem like he was just like this original, you know, like, of course he's
like Larry Bird.
Yeah, he's like one of the greatest, of course. But like people were at a point, at a certain time, you were the people that you're hating on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, just because they're doing it a little different than you, like, everybody wants the nostalgia. Like, we can go back to our high school and be like, man, back when we were in high school, our football team won 10 games and we beat Oaks Christian twice. You know, like, but we'll look at the kids now and it's like, oh, they're not even running the same plays and none of this. It's like because the landscape has changed. Football's changed. Like, you know, they're trying to be safer. They're trying to protect the kids more.
Yeah.
They're trying to make sure. So how can we be mad at them because they've come up, not even they haven't even progressed the game. They haven't even progressed the music industry. They haven't progressed the business. They haven't progressed business.
Yeah.
They were just brought up in a time where it was changing and they took advantage of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you're mad at the younger people because they're doing something that, you know, yeah, maybe they are a little entitled. Sure, like there are some millennials who are entitled, but things have come easy to them. Like
there are some everyone that's entitled.
They grew up in high school like taking tests on iPads, you know, like so what do you want from them? Like maybe they have sloppy writing because they didn't have to write with a pencil, you know, like so get over it, you know.
Okay, so social experiment real quick between the three of us.
All right. It's always good to have an exercise.
Let's have an exercise.
And we're at an hour 18 by the way, so
Good.
we probably should.
We could probably wrap it up
Yeah.
at sometime in the next hour and a half. So
it won't be the longest.
All right, I'm getting another bottle
be
of
the
wine.
shortest. Okay. We all, the three of us know the concept of a man's man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gaston.
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe
All right,
Gaston.
Guzzle 5 doesn't
No.
eggs.
No one hits like Gaston. No one spits like Gaston.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that carpet. It's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's cool. So my question to you, and it's not a social experiment, that was just me being fun, but the question is, do you respect a man who society sees as quote unquote soft? Think of a soft dude that you know, and you're like, do you respect him?
A softie?
You know who they called soft? Prince. No, they also called soft?
But he was like
called
physically
Prince. Okay.
soft.
Michael Jackson. They
Yeah.
called Michael
But
Jackson soft.
I
respect the shit out of them immensely.
I don't think they called them soft.
They
They called it
soft
they called them
people.
soft. They called them soft right after Prince walked up and took his wife of 10 years.
Yeah, well, they were tiny, but they weren't. I don't think that's not what I mean by soft.
I know.
You know what I mean by
yeah,
soft.
I know what you mean.
So don't ruin my fucking experiment.
Pudgy.
No, not pudgy. So not a man's man. You know what I'm saying? Like
a pushover.
Yeah.
Someone
No,
who
but no,
who O'Doyle would used to go up and be like, boom, O'Doyle.
but that's not even what I mean. Not even. Again, we're fucked up because that's what we're thinking. When you hear soft, you hear someone that takes it. Someone that lacks ego.
Well,
Someone,
it could also be
Like-
someone. Well, I think ego is a big thing when it comes to being soft.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in tune with, because there's a healthy ego and a very unhealthy ego, and if people have a healthy ego, then they have the ability to have resilience. That's I think resilience and being soft are two opposite things, and that's important in the business world to have some sort of resilience, because people are going to tell you no a lot of the time. People are going to like being mean to you, they're gonna O'Doyle you.
No, I think I kind of understand where you're saying when you say soft. Like I feel like a definition of a soft person today is like someone who's more in tune with like the way that they feel,
more fucking sensitive.
like who's more sensitive, like
Right.
someone who's more in touch with like, okay, like if I have this, experience, it's going to give me this reaction, and I'm more aware of that, as opposed to someone who would just go in and say, fuck it, I'm just going to do it anyway, regardless of whatever it does to me afterwards. Like there's people that are taking their time and thinking about things now. Like, some people, I'm not saying all people, but there are some people, like I follow a lot of people, like who are very just aware of their everyday life. Like they just treat it as like a human experience every single day.
Yeah.
They're like, I go into this room and I make sure that my chest is up and I'm smiling and I do that, like to a, regular man, like, they're like, go in, shake his hand, look him in the eye, sit down and get the deal done, like, whereas people today, they're like, I have to make sure that my auras are right. So I do my affirmations in the morning, blah, blah, blah. Like people may consider that soft. And I don't think that I don't respect these people less. I actually respect them a lot more, because that's what got us in a lot of trouble to begin with.
What about when they walk into a room?
Like when someone who's soft.
What about the
person?
second you judge someone when they walk into a room?
The second that I judge someone when they walk into a room is like I can kind of sense when a person is, you know,
a pussy or is he a fucking man? When they walk into, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm predisposed 100% to have an easier time judging a man's man than I am judging in respecting a sensitive person. I will come to respect the sensitive person more so in the end than I will the man's man, because generally speaking, they have more desirable, more human traits than the other one.
Right.
But when I'm walking in a room and I
It's the
see
way
someone come in and how they carry themselves,
yeah.
I have been programmed to think two different ways about the two different people. And one of the ways is that I have this automated feeling for the harder person than I do for the softer person when they are a male. And
I don't have that so much.
Yeah,
No?
I feel like I'm opposite. I feel like
Too many Tom Hanks movies when I was growing up, I think.
well, and I feel like and this is the reason that I feel like that.
but Tom
personally.
Hanks is a man's man.
Is he though?
Yeah.
I think he's pretty
No.
sensitive.
No,
Tom
he's a
Hanks
fucking
is
man's man.
man.
Have you seen Sleepless in Seattle 57
Only a
times?
man's man could do that role.
Have you seen Forrest Gump?
No, but the reason that I say that my experience is different is because typically when someone walks in the room and they see me, doesn't matter how like man's man they are, it's kind of a size up. You know what I'm saying? So like it's like, who's really the, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's interesting.
Because I'm not like I'm probably the biggest teddy bear you ever meet. But like when people look at me, like I'm like. To me, I don't see it. I feel like one of those big old Great Danes who like feels like a lap dog, like you know what I'm saying? Like, but when people see me, they're like, "Oh, that's a big guy. Like he's an imposing figure," you know. So like, it's kind of like a feel out. You know what I'm saying? Like, is he tough? Is he? And I can be both. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't identify with one or the other. Like I can be a man's man. I can be a sensitive person as well. So for me, when someone walks in the room, if someone walks in the room and they have that, like, then I'm like, all right, then he's not scared. Like he's a man's man. But a lot of times that breaks down, you know, in my experience, you know, because it's overcompensating for something that they think that they have to do because of my stature. But then once I show them who I really am, then they're kind of like, oh, I don't have to be that tough, you know, motherfucker, you know, like I can actually be, you know, who I am, you know? So and so, like I said, for me, it's different because of the way people view me when they walk into a room, not the way that I view them when they walk into a room. Yeah.
Hey, it's awesome. It's great. I mean, for me, nobody walks into a room and thinks I'm intimidating.
But you're gonna close their
not
ass.
until they get to know me.
You're gonna close their ass. You're getting closed on, just letting you know.
But it is. I mean, that's interesting, though. I do feel like as you talk to people throughout the generations, you talk to people in different races, different genders, there is programming being done for sure.
It is.
And I was giving up the way I feel is a small example to just how we are trained to feel certain ways based on how certain people look, act, you know, whatever it is. And it's just, it's strange.
I'm a reactor. You know, like I never try to impose unless,
That's true.
You know, like that's just not a thing that I do. And I think it's like, it's part defense mechanism too. Because I like, you know, like I might be the softie in a room, you know, like I think a lot of the time I am. But it's usually because I kind of want to feel out what's happening and like really understand my environment, and I don't want to. I'm a. In terms of like the fight or flight response, like I'm more of like a let's just like
wait it out,
see what exactly. You know, like if I had to fight, if I had to fight, if I had to run. Like I don't make those kind of snap decisions on people, and I think that's kind of played into a lot of the people that I associate with also. Like if you think about like me, like going, like joining choir, like, which is pretty against the grain from the high school that we went to. You know, it was just like a bunch of, like, I was like one of maybe 3 dudes, and it was just like 50 million women.
Just watched American Pie too many times.
Well, I've been in like, you know, like I grew up in a Catholic church, you know, and you know, like my mom was the main singer, so like it was just what I did. I went and sang.
Yeah.
But you know, like in those situations, you cannot present yourself as like a dominant figure
Right.
because you'll freak everybody out.
Yeah, and the teacher will make you sing all the leads. She was like,
Which-
"You want to be tough?"
Which you kind of have to do anyways. One of the only dudes.
Yeah,
Like you have
sure.
to carry the other end. But yeah, that's just my perspective on the whole thing.
Well, we all, I mean,
Three kind of different perspectives on it.
Yeah.
and we balance each other out, and that's why we do this together,
Yes.
because we want to hear, we want to cover as much ground as we can and as many different perspectives as we can, because that's what's going to lead to the best learning.
The trifecta.
Yeah.
Trifecta.
With our powers combined,
We make.
the 5 o'clock hustle. Oh, wow, you do that so much better than I do.
Dope. So that was a weird conversation for
It went
40 hours.
It went left.
We just talk about.
Yeah, but I went left and right.
It went left and right.
Yeah.
Up and down.
Let's cut it up.
Yeah.
Anyways, next time on the Relationships and Racism podcast.
Come by to hate.
Combined hate.
Well, no, but seriously,
Yeah.
like it's. I think it's an important conversation to have because it's conversations that a lot of companies avoid. I think it's a lot of disgruntled employees are put into an environment where they might feel like they don't have the upper hand or
Well, the good companies attack this head on, though. To be fair, there is sensitivity training, like for the company I work
there's
with.
very few good companies.
Okay, well, it's very easy access to the resources that make you a good company by
Yeah.
this standard.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
And there's a reason that company's as good as it is.
yeah,
And because they put
because-
resources and
yeah. Well,
things like that.
we win awards for diversity, but it doesn't. You don't need an award to be equal and to be fair. Like,
yeah.
so I mean,
I'm sorry. I don't want to keep pushing this conversation, but I just had a quick thought.
Do it.
How much do you guys think the lack of human interaction is playing into a lot of the shit that we're talking about?
I think it's amplifying it for sure.
Because I just realized it's like you said, like when you walk into a room, like when people walk into a room, like there's, we have these preconceived notions, we have these judgments, we have these things. And I feel like I was saying, like once somebody gets to actually know me, like the guard kind of comes down. Like you were saying, like you don't have these, judgments. Let's wait it out. Like, but how long are we waiting it out in rooms with people lately?
Right.
Like how long do we have to, we don't really have those human interactions. And I feel like that's kind of causing a lot of the shit.
It's those preconceived notions. It's the groupthink mentality that people have from the associations that they are currently, comfortable with.
And I think because people too are kind of giving you what they want to see. You know what I'm saying? Or like what they want you to see. So like if they want to be perceived as a tough guy, then they'll just show them racking a bunch of weight on and some shit, like doing, whatever, when they really could be a softie. But like the only thing you see of them is on social media, and they're just banging weights, clanging, banging. Like how, like there's no human interaction with that person. So you see that, oh, I know that guy from Instagram, or I know that guy from Facebook. He lifts weights. Like he must be crazy. Like, you're instantly just like, okay, whatever. You have a preconceived notion of that person. Like, I feel like human interaction needs to happen a lot
the key.
more.
It's absolutely the key. You have to everybody has to get outside of their comfort zone and look for those.
Go meet people, guys.
Like a quick example, and we're obviously we talked about.
Relax, it's fine. Just keep going.
We're running on it.
We're running, man. I'm sorry, I didn't
there's a
even
Netflix special of there's this woman who went to the all those white supremacist riots. I'm saying white supremacists a lot in this episode. No, but
All right, Chris,
she's a Muslim. She was a Muslim woman, and she literally went across the lines and was filming the white supremacists alongside of them with their permission, interviewing them and like getting to know these people. And then after that, she got some contacts and actually went to their homes and spent a lot of time with them. And basically at least everyone that she presented in that film was like, I would never like want anything to happen to you. The white supremacist saying this to this Muslim woman
yeah.
that like I would never, like I consider you a friend, and like it's that interaction. One of them was like, I'm no longer a white supremacist anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm done with this and this. And he was one of the guys that organized that terrible event in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And it's
crazy,
an
man.
insane situation, and he's one of the main people who is pushing that message. And here she is, a Muslim woman, just basically like sidelining his entire world that he lived in since who knows how long.
Yeah.
So it's just there's so many incredible stories like that with there was even that one. There's a beer commercial, like Heineken did it. Did you guys see that one? They had like this there's like not a maze, but like a walkthrough thing, and they each had to do. It was kind of like a scavenger hunt, and then the last one was like you basically like have a beer and like have a conversation with this person, and then they were talking, and then they would play something that a video of what they said about that kind of like stereotype person,
Right.
and like they just made friends with each other, right? After having a beer together, and then they play this video.
I don't like black people.
Like, oh shit! And then they'd go and talk again and be like, you know what? Like that's like I never gave it the opportunity. Like I've never had that interaction with anybody. I didn't have that knowledge base, and one of them was kind of funny. One of them walked away like he was pissed, and then he was like, just get in. And he like came back and like made friends with the lady. It was really funny.
I mean, like, humanity will prevail, right? Like, anytime you have a movement towards something grand and love-based, it seems to make a big impact. And like nowadays, the movements are all towards like leaving social media and its influence and start to believing in your heart, believing in your soul and your humanity. Like, there was FOMO, fear of missing out, and now there's a movement called JOMO, joy of missing out. I mean, for everything like that, there is someone that is like, okay, I'm going to like relish in being disconnected and having human interaction. So Dre, back to what you said, it is a big issue that we never give people the time of day.
Right.
Like, because for every missed interaction I have with someone that's different than me, I probably hear 5 to 10 bad things about them on social media.
Absolutely.
For whatever that is. If it's a woman, an African American person, a Muslim woman, whatever it is, like every interaction that I miss is setting me back.
Right.
So, but that being said, I think it's something people understand. Like, think about like us as parents, and we see the parents in the generation right above us that very clearly latched on to technology for their children, and they were like, let them be distracted by sitting there watching an iPad or an iPhone forever, and we're like sitting there like, man, we got to get our kids like playing.
We got to get them outside.
We got to get them outside. We got to so you learn, you learn from other people that may not be doing it the way that you think is best for our society.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we're not even pregnant,
Right.
But like, I'm looking in the future. I'm like, when I raise my child, I'm going to have to find a way for them to experience some of the great things that I had about my childhood, one of which was social interaction. And I learned most of what I did from that.
Right.
So it's going to definitely be one of those skill sets that companies are going to be like, shit, we need more people who can fucking talk to people.
Who can talk to people.
But back to Karla's episode, it's all about finding a balance. And that goes with like, the social movements and like the equality movements. I don't know if it's getting any better. If you asked me today, I'd probably say no. But what does give me hope?
If what's getting any better?
Like there's like the balance of like, is there more racism versus not racism, I guess.
Well, how do you mean if you judge,
I don't think there is.
If you judge it by something like, I mean,
if you judge it by the way that it is portrayed, then you can make an argument. I think that there are more people in this world who are not, or even in this country who are not, than there are. But there are people who are making a point to make sure that the people who are have a voice, because I mean, people have felt silence, because it wasn't the right thing to do. Like, people were getting shit on for having their views, and now it's the time in just this day and age where you're getting shit on for the things that you say, but you have people backing you up. You know, like there's more people who are rallying behind.
Yeah.
Like there's people who are rallying behind the causes and who are rallying around, you know, equality and, you know, things like that. There are people who are rallying behind.
And that's
this is the way
exactly
I feel,
my point.
You know, but I think that the people who are rallying behind the hate and rallying behind those, they have a louder voice than us now.
Well, because it's just louder.
It's louder because the people who are fighting against it have been diminished, right? Because it's anything that's oversaturated is like, okay, you're not taking this seriously, right? You know, so you have this movement, you have this movement, you have this movement, you have this movement, you have this movement. People are like, oh, we're sick of movements. These people are sticking to their guns. Like they're saying one thing and they're saying it loud and they're saying it proud. So we have all these different voices of these people saying, okay, we want equality here. We want this. We want people to stop doing this. We want, you know, to be heard here. We want to be heard. And it's like, it feels like, okay, you guys are fucking inundating us with all these requests of what you want and what you need. All these people are saying is shut the fuck up. I'm going with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like their voice is broadcast a lot louder because it's a voice that hasn't been heard in a long time.
I think it's more simple than that. I think it's the fact that when like hatred and just fear and those kinds of messages are literally like an evolutionary human thing that just registers with our brains more immediately. It's more memorable because we have to remember them because we need to know how to defend ourselves against them, whether it's to side with them. So you're, you know, kind of, you know, crossing sides and like joining your enemies, or you're, you know, you're trying to like analyze and find tools on like, how can I defend myself against these people and defeat them? It's just a way of, you know, of survival.
Yeah.
And, you know, group mentalities, as terrible as they can be, is a survival mechanism. Yeah. And then until people have that kind of education to where they understand that that's not necessary, which is almost fucking impossible.
And I think one thing
it just is because like it's impossible because it's just it's just built in us to find the easiest path to being okay.
Right.
And if that is
and what's getting that done now is the immediate validation. You know what I'm saying? Like
those fucking millennials.
Like there's like people are just seeking validation. They're seeking validation and they're getting it a lot quicker than they would, you know, having to go around knocking door to door and, hey, sign this petition. They're just throwing it up on Facebook and, you know, whatever. And like, so the validation is happening a lot. And I think that the people who are the loudest right now are getting the most validation, you know, like, and that's just it, because there's too much to validate on the other side, you know, like, it's like, okay, well, I feel that way, but like, I was just talking about this fight the other day and these two kind of conflict, so I want to stay with this one and I'm not speaking, like, it's too much, like it's still oversaturated. And like, I don't know, man, like, I think that, like, you know, the old saying is darkest before dawn, and like you guys said, it's like we're in a fucked up place right now, but I think human interaction will slowly make a way back into the fold. And I think that it's gonna be, I'm seeing it a lot just being a parent, you know, interacting with parents that I wouldn't necessarily interact with because our kids have latched on to each other, you know, hanging out with people that I never would hang out with just because my son and their daughter are like, you know, playground friends, you know, like whatever. And it's just like, I think those things are really going to change the landscape of where we are now. And I mean, I think we're all looking for something new, and we're all looking for something to change and something refreshing, and it's gonna come. Right. You know, we just kind of need to figure out a way to be tolerant of each other and have more human interaction.
Live and let live.
Yeah. Whether or not it's getting any better, it's getting any worse, fight the good fight and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I still have a lot to say about this, but I feel like we can go for.
Yeah, we can go.
Yeah, no, this is a totally different podcast, but we can do one of these.
5 o'clock hustle.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
I feel like I was doing this shit in 2005.
And thus, the side hustle was created.
And that's what it always is, right? It's crazy.
Anyways, thanks.
5 to 8, 5 to 9, 5 to 10.
Let me close this goddamn thing.
Close it out, dude.
Close it out, bro.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, come on.
This is what
I don't like the way you're doing that.
No, but thanks again, guys, for listening to another episode of the 5 O'Clock Hustle podcast. You guys can find us on the Instagrams at 5 O'Clock Hustle. That's the main place where we're hanging out usually.
You know where to find us.
You know where to find us. Go to 5o'clockhustle.com and sign up for a newsletter. Find out all the cool stuff that we're doing. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, guys, we've been rated as one of the top 30 entrepreneurial podcasts around.
buddy.
So
Shout.
keep listening.
Holla at
We
us.
want to be top 5.
Top 5 on live. Leave us a review.
Yeah,
if
but
you
not
don't
about this
mind.
conversation because it's going to
No,
be too mixed.
review this conversation.
Actually,
Do you
can
want
review
more?
it, review
unless
it,
you're soft.
but review it, but like maybe more message us so that we can bring up some of these things.
That's true.
Nah, screw it. If you give it 5 stars, you can say where the fuck you want.
We're just throwing out values for likes,
that's
dude.
star
Validation. Let's do it. Five-star hustle.
5-star hustle.
five for love. All right.
Five for
Five
love.
for love.
Let him go.
Five for
Let him
love.
go.
All right. Good night.
All right, play
Good
the
night,
music.
everybody. Good.
Play
Enjoy.
the fucking music.
Enjoy your drive.
Enjoy your drive. Enjoy
Have a good day
your
at work.
burrito.
Live. Enjoy your drive. Enjoy your life. Bye.
The end.
Enjoy your drive and enjoy your 5.
Don't touch that knife.
Don't touch the hive.
What?